or leave it on this one? Lights, camera, action. Let's have a good show tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Still, we have 2 minutes.
And do we want to promote LinkedIn, the LinkedIn page, or Facebook, or any other things? And please, speakers, if you've got links to websites or things that you'd like to promote, then please kind of let our team know. We're always keen to share the social media love.
Good evening, Masoud.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine. How are you?
I'm very good.
How's it, David? Kia ora, David.
I'm very good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Yes, yeah. Life is busy, but very good.
If life isn't busy, why are we alive?
That is true. Great to see everyone joining.
I'm using my spare computer because I'm using my other one for something else. So
Excellent.
Have I got, oops. Am I alive? Am I here? Do I see my name? I should turn off my mic. I'm on the web browser. Where's the mic?
Awesome. It's 6 o'clock. How about we get started?
Yeah. So I make myself mute. So and then you can start the part. So I mute all. Colart, please unmute yourself.
All right. Haramai, and welcome back for the very first Tech Talk New Zealand for the year 2022. Welcome, everyone. We'd love to get a sense of who's actually on the call today, and I just want to acknowledge that we just have this amazing community of supporters, both local in Aotearoa in New Zealand and from all over the world. So just a massive welcome and a lot of warmth and care from all of us here and sent out to all of you. And thank you again for joining us for another Tech Talk series. So look, 2022, this is the very first one for the year, and I'm very excited to announce that we've got a bit of a really cool theme in mind for this year. Thanks, David. Today, we're basically introducing that as reimagining our future together. So as you all know, we're kind of caught in this the second year of an unprecedented event that seems to have the whole of humanity in its grip, and it's really created a sense of, well, there's a completely new normal, right? That's kind of emerging out of this. So I think this is probably one of the examples of the kind of changes that we've been experiencing in the last decade or so. With who remembers Brexit? Who remembers the bushfires in Australia? Who remembers, there's all these sort of massive, seemingly unprecedented events. We seem to have a few of them a month now. And that, I think, is a symptom of accelerating change. And so, this is where I think a theme like this becomes our opportunity. So thank you so much for joining us tonight from wherever you are in the world. We hope you're safe and sound and that you're able to connect with an open heart and an open mind tonight. So yeah. We've got accelerating change around us. It's unstoppable. So how do we organize ourselves and our thoughts and our development in the face of that unstoppable change? So that's our theme for the year. Let's kind of see if we can leverage the collective here. There's no one of us smarter than all of us. So if we all put our sort of energy into this, could we craft a conversation that really shapes what happens next? So reimagining our future together. Tonight, within that big broad theme, we're going to be focusing particularly on skills, the kind of skills that are needed for future employment. So that's our kind of really crystal clear, sharp theme for tonight. And we're very privileged to be able to host these. There is a next. Yes, there is. We'll have a chat about that. Thanks, David. Sorry, I was just reading what came up in the comments. But yeah, so skills required for the future employment. We've got an exciting night planned for tonight. But I just want to very quickly put a massive shout out and an acknowledgement for our event partners. Without them, none of this would be possible. There's a whole army of volunteers. In fact, on the call tonight, you can see anyone with one of these cool TechTALK green backgrounds is someone that's really showing off the fact that they're supporting. And of course, that's alongside all of you that are joining the call tonight. So so just a massive mihi and a thank you to all of those amazing people that are making our sort of event possible. Thank you. Cheers. Look, this is a kind of conversation that we really want to make as inclusive as possible. So we would encourage you to share on the socials. So if you've got LinkedIn, have a look for TechTALK on LinkedIn. It's a lovely page up there, and we've got Facebook as well. It's quite active. And our hashtag is TechTalkNZ. And it should be displayed somewhere, but so super simple, TechTalk NZ. Have a look for us, and please add to the conversation. So if you're inspired by anything you hear tonight, and you've got like really cool resources, or you just want to connect up with people and join that conversation and add to it, thank you, Masoud, put something in the chat. Then please use that hashtag, and let's see if we can kind of build a bit of a mass around this. It feels important. It feels worthwhile. So yeah, thank you for that. We'll just kind of move to the next slide. So a little bit about me. I'll attempt my pepiha, so you'll forgive me if I do fumble it a little bit. I'm not a native Kiwi, so here goes. Kia ora tātou katoa, ko rangitoto te maunga, ko ochikoto te awa, no Africa ahau, no Miles tokawhānau, ko Colart toko ingoa. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Colart Miles. I'm based in Auckland, which is also known as Tamaki Makaurau, which is on the North Island in New Zealand, for those of you who might not be too familiar with our neighborhood. And really, I've got a massive passion for innovation and shaping what happens next for our society. And I mean, and of course, whatever we can do locally in our community. I'm on a personal mission to make sure that the world of work doesn't suck for our children. Is anyone else with me? I guess by now you would be finding those emoticon buttons, which might be part of our housekeeping later. Let me show you one. There's a heart. There's a heart. If you find it on your toolbar inside Teams and the way you've logged in, hopefully you'll be able to figure out how to give us some little emoticon outputs or feedback. So yeah. Got a massive passion for workplaces. That's I've dedicated my career to supporting companies with that sort of thing, to come to grips with the complexities that we're faced with, and to try and create more human-centered and human-friendly work environments. And I'm pretty good at what I do. So yeah, as always, grateful for the opportunity to connect with good people doing good things, just like all of you. And yeah, this is what TechTALK is all about. Right, let's click to the next one. So we've got an amazing panel of speakers, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time bigging them up because we're so grateful for them joining us. We've got Susan Bennett, the head of school for Unitec. We've got Robyn, Kamira, who's a founder and has immense experience in the sort of tech sector, brings a lot to the table in terms of war stories, and we're just so excited to have her in the conversation tonight. And of course, we've got Michelle Ballard, director of Grow Group. And you'll be finding out more about our speakers and the kind of stories that they have to share a little bit later, but I'll just giving them a quick nod here. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and for helping us build a conversation around skills. We shouldn't put a Z at the end of the skills, hey? So yeah, in the sort of housekeeping frame, I won't read these out because I think it's easy to read. But I mean, that last one I think is a kind of helpful one. If you haven't found it already, have a look for emoticons. I think they're actually called reactions on Teams. On my one, it says reactions with that little face with a hand. And if you hover your mouse over that, you can give us a thumbs up. Thumbs up if you've got it. Hearts if you resonate with something that people are saying. So yeah, please be generous with the feedback. I would say that for those of us who are not used to speaking to large audiences, it's incredibly encouraging to get a bit of positive feedback when something lands. So this is especially on behalf of our speakers tonight. I would encourage you to please give us lots and lots. Be generous with the feedback and make it nice and visual. Cool. So that's a bit of housekeeping. Look, we're going to be tackling these topics just like every tech talk. Sometimes, because we have such diversity in our audience, we're coming in from all over the world. Sometimes it's easy to get tangled up or activated by what you've heard, and so we just want to encourage you to be open to different perspectives. That's kind of what these talks are all about. Try and take a key learning away from tonight. That's my personal ask for you. And again, like I said before, be generous with your feedback and comments. We would ask, just as a bit of a housekeeping part around the videoing, we are going to be recording the talks from our amazing speakers, and so we would request that you'll have your mute button or your system muted while that's sort of happening. If you've got any questions or comments, we really want to encourage those. Pop them in the chat, and we'll pick up one or two if we've got time. And then, and of course, you'll have another opportunity because we've got a slightly different format tonight, which creates an opportunity for having those Q&A better addressed towards the end. So yeah, systems muted, and pop your questions in the chat. Cool, thank you for that. Look, just sort of stepping back, digital citizenship, massively important to us as an organizing team. We see a lot happening online. And a lot of events like this. It's really important that we make these safe and productive environments for everyone to participate. So please, if just to kind of center yourself as you kind of interact tonight and participate, we're encouraging you to be respectful and to be ethical. And look, if you've got any concerns about tonight's proceedings, please get in touch with our organizing team. We're super keen to protect the integrity of tonight and make sure that it is building in the future, for everyone. So thank you for that. I think that's a bit of the housekeeping out the way. Right. So the next up is, we're lovers of data, and our event particularly prides itself on carrying quite a long run of demographic data. It's all anonymized. So I would request that you please take grab that link on the screen right now and take a moment. It takes 2 or 3 minutes to just fill in the survey. Thanks very much. We've got a couple of results coming through so far. So thank you for that. You with the very fast thumbs, if you're on mobile. Oh, thank you, Masoud. That's a good idea. Popping the link in the chat. So while you're filling the survey in, our organizing team is always on the lookout for cool stories and interesting speakers. Of course, the organizing team itself has always got an open space for people to join if they feel a passion and a connection to this sort of event. So yeah, just putting a shout out there. Let us know. Reach out to one of us if you think you've got a really cool story to share in our forums. You know what the theme is. This is reimagining our future together. So if you've got a topic that's kind of burning inside you, or an observation you've got of the world, or something useful to add, please get in touch, and we'll help you craft that into a talk. And if you attended any of our sessions, it's just such a wonderful audience. That I mean all of you. And so it's a really great forum to be able to share your story in. So yeah, if you've got a story, come and talk to us, and we'd love to have you on the speaker's role. Cool. How are we doing there, Masoud? Do we think we've got enough momentum on the surveying piece? The link is in the chat, and please encourage you to submit those, and we'll kind of start to open tonight's session out. So what have we got in store? Tonight we are going to have our three speakers share a prepared sort of story that they or talk that they have ready for us, and that'll be a roughly 10 minutes per speaker. Then we're going to take a comfort break, and we'd encourage you to stretch your legs and get something to drink and whatever else. And then when we reconvene, slightly different format tonight. We're going to be trialing a panel discussion. So all that means is we just welcome our speakers back to the mix. We pop a few questions to get the ball rolling and hopefully have a vibrant and interesting conversation. I've got a personal goal around that, which I'm going to need your help with as an audience. And we'll chat about that when we get closer to the time. But yeah, so that's our evening in two halves. It's we're going to be hearing and acknowledging the three amazing stories from our speakers, and then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to have a panel discussion, and then we'll wrap up round about 7:30ish. Cool, thank you. So again, recapping our theme, skills required for future employment. Are we ready for our first speaker? Can I give a show of thumbs? Excellent, thank you. Virtual and real thumbs. Outstanding. Okay, well, I have like the most amazing pleasure to welcome Michelle Ballard to our community. Michelle has a 30-year career across corporate communications, HR, CSR policy, governance and consulting, all the exciting bits. Michelle is particularly interested in supporting businesses to accelerate their transition to operating in a low carbon economy. That's really intriguing. Her consultancy Grow Group supports major change programs and business turnarounds. Enthusiastic about human-centered design, she's at her best, helping leaders and their teams refine, communicate, and deliver their strategy. She holds a master's in technology futures, a master's in applied science and communication management, and a BA honors in film and theatre, which is exciting. Ladies and gents, please put your hands together for the amazing Michelle. Over to you, Michelle.
Oh, Colart, thank you for such a fabulous introduction, and welcome and kia ora to the TechTALK community. I feel really honoured to be invited to share some thoughts with you, and really keen to actually be part of the TechTALK community in the future. I really recognise it as a community of learning, and I really look forward to it. I just want to talk a little bit about making work work. And I think I come from I've got a 30-year career history, and I know just from talking to Masoud that the general demographics of the TechTALK community probably are a fair bit younger than I am. So I feel like I've got a little bit of wisdom to share, being a bit of a corporate worker for the last 30 years. Masoud, can we flick the next slide? Great. So my background's all in business comms and change, and I found that I was a pretty typical corporate worker for the first 20 years of my career, working in financial services businesses, pretty much working 7 till 7, usually about 6 days a week. I absolutely love my work. I really thrive on particularly communication and leadership development, and working with organisations around culture. But then I hit that fabulous human experience of I had a family, and all of a sudden work didn't work for me. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? And this was about 16 years ago. And I've got a son now who's 20 and a daughter who's 13 and a half. And I sort of crossed the Rubicon in the sense that I just found that I couldn't make the juggle work. So I dived out of the corporate box and constraints, and I started my own business Grow Group. And it was kind of an interesting experience, just a mindset around a lot of the things that I'd taken for granted in terms of where and when I had to work. Starting my own business, I found that I ended up working less time, earning more money, and was able to parent as well. And so when COVID has come along, I've realised that people are getting kind of excited about the hybrid model of working from home. And I suppose I feel I've been doing that really for the last 16 years. So I've given it a good test and learn, and I've definitely learnt some tips and tricks along the way. So can we dive into the next slide? Lovely. So for those of you who maybe not located in this part of the world, I live on Wahiki Island, which is a beautiful little island just in the Hauraki Gulf of the North Island of New Zealand. And I've got a beautiful border collie dog. And so again, I'm taking the experience of working in a hybrid way and from home. And I think COVID has had incredible impacts for all of us, around the world. But it's also had a couple of silver linings. And I think for me in particular, I've used the opportunity in the last couple of years to dive into some study. And I've just finished a master's in technology futures with the Tech Futures Lab. And I'm typically, a lot of the students who do that course are in their kind of mid-40s and 50s. And I think one of the takeouts around future of work and skills is the fact that I reckon we're all going to be working longer. So the old template career where you wrap up work, late 50s, early 60s, I feel I've got a runway, much more to give and offer. And so I'm use that opportunity of COVID to upskill and got really good exposure around the whole world of emerging disruptive technologies. Masoud, if we can dive into the next slide. So my message today is really simple. As a communicator, I've got lots to share, but I think critically, let's redesign work so it works better for people and our planet. But importantly, we've actually got to get quicker at doing it. And so it's as much about tech as it is about human skills of adapting and evolving quickly, which is going to involve a lot more emphasis on human skills around connection, relationship, listening, creativity. So in fact, a lot of the skills that people would refer to as soft skills, but I see such benefit in bringing together that technology and these what referred to as soft skills. But importantly, I've put in here, I reckon we've got about a decade. So if we can jump to the next slide. So we've got some critical drivers of change, and if COVID has shown us anything, it showed us that we could change on a dime if we had to. But interestingly, with that change, and I was only kind of walking on the beach last night, kind of reflecting to my family just how fatigued we all feel. So there's definitely a human dimension and an ability to digest a certain amount of change, and then we all kind of tune out a little bit. And I suppose in some ways, talking about a low carbon economy and the need for our industries to actually shift within the next decade, it really highlights for me the importance of us shifting to better ways, more progressive ways of working. We jump into the next slide. So there's a futurist, Thomas Frey, who said that we underpredict the time necessary for change to happen and underpredict its impacts. And he gave the example of the driverless car, which we all feel is new technology. But in fact, he reaches back into the 1920s to say, in fact, it's been in development for kind of over 80 or 100 years, and we're actually not there yet. So next slide, please, Masoud. So when you have a look at some of the scale of change that's really going to be required of all industries in the next decade or 2 decades, it's monumental in terms of its scale across every single industry. And I think a key takeout for me, just working with different clients and learning more about technology, is the need to become much more literate in the low carbon economy. How it's measured, what technology we're going to use, how we're going to work together fast to make those changes that we need to make, and do it all in a way that actually preserves and protects the preciousness of being human. So we jump to the next slide. So this is, I'm sure many of you will have seen this prediction in terms of what's going to be required in terms of limiting global warming to 1.5. And if it's to 2 degrees, it stretches out a little further. But already, being an Aussie, I've got family who are suffering at the minute from floods, and we've only had a couple of years back really extreme wildfires. So I think for all of us, we're feeling the urgency like never before. Masoud, next slide. Interestingly, with this sense of rapid and accelerated change and technological change, we all get quite excited about it. But that tends to happen exponentially, more and more faster, whereas human and organisational change tends to happen in a different way. There's more variables that come into play that actually push change rapidly at one moment and then impact us in another way. So, for example, we just right in the middle of a global pandemic, and now we've got really significant conflict in Ukraine. And so focus and energy and finances that might have been directed to low carbon economy transition might end up being redirected to humanitarian aid and support. We jump to the next slide. So interestingly, being a human, I suppose, and being into technology, what always amazes me is the stuff that still actually takes time. And you see those beautiful slides that show you how quickly everything's changed. But in fact, you know, we kind of still need the same amount of sleep, you know, as workers and humans. You know, bringing up a child still takes about 2 decades. We haven't made that any more rapid. And so I think that needs to inform us in the way we actually make change to work and work processes. We jump to the next slide. So interestingly, while we've got amazing technological advancement, working with some of my clients, particularly around organisational culture and leadership and so on, I often notice that we tend to still use quite ancient models in terms of, you know, even basic stuff like the 5-day working week or an 8-hour working day, or the concept of the office, what it looks like, feels like. I know some organisations tend to throw in, you know, a fruit bowl and a beanbag, but it still feels quite constraining. Old HR processes like job descriptions and the good old annual performance review just doesn't cut it when we look at the level of accelerated change that technology is going to bring us. Can we jump to the next slide? So my message is all around connection and relationship and listening. The skills of the future need to combine literacy in the low carbon economy, but with increasing the voices who are around the table, getting philosophers, getting theatre artists involved in conversation and ideation with people involved in developing technology will give us a much richer and better outcome and result, and importantly, really preserve the precious characteristics of being human and what we value about living on this planet. We'll just jump to the next slide. So what can we actually do now? One of the things I've started to do is just start talking about it. So starting to include, you know, learning about the low carbon economy, starting to get literate in its measurements and how organisations need to change, finding a tribe and then taking some action. So one thing that I've just done and joined up to is Creative HQ, Arts Government Agency based down in Wellington, and I've just connected as a mentor in their Climate Accelerator program, supporting startups and people and organisations trying to address the climate crisis and make a contribution and learn in any way I can. I'm conscious of the time, really happy and looking forward to a great conversation this evening. And I'll hand back over to Colart and Masoud to jump on to the next speaker.
We give a massive round of applause, please. Thank you so much, Shelley. Do you mind if I call you Shelley? Feels like we're family now. And we had a few people comment, Michelle, that they really appreciated you starting with the environment and just, I guess, mentioning or touching on our duty of care. And so, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. That's a really great way to kick off. Thank you. Awesome. So next up, we have the amazing Robyn Kamira. I'm going to attempt to give the introductory line that I've been given, and so I hope I do it service. Te rarawa, te rarawa, te aupori, napui nui tonu, Ngāti Whātua, tai tokoro wānui. So Robyn Kamira is a seasoned IT professional working with government, iwi, Maori, and the NGO sectors. She's the Deputy President of New Zealand's IT industry organisation. That's the Institute of IT Professionals. Hey, funny story. They actually helped me get into Aotearoa, so I might tell you about that later. And is a lead judge for the New Zealand High Tech Awards, the Maori category, which is pretty amazing. Robyn founded 2 technology companies, Paua Interface in 2002. They provide IT consulting services, and Incredible Skies in 2017, undertaking drone research and development. Robyn was also the first Maori woman to gain a computer science degree in Aotearoa. Isn't that incredible? Can I get a massive ka pai for that? Woo! Big crowd of thank you. That's groundbreaking, amazing. When she's not spending time in the technology space, she's the author of Traditional Maori Language, a musical director of Maori world fusion band Wātai. We've got to look that up. And she's writing and recording music in te reo, which is Maori language, and playing guitar and banjo. I mean, we're so privileged to have Robyn with us tonight. Ladies and gents, can you please put your hands together? The floor is yours, Robyn Kamira.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm going to just now share screen. Thank you for that, Colart, and to the organising team. It's really nice to see some familiar names in the people list. And while I'm just sharing this, Michelle, there are at least 2 people here who used to teach or support at Tech Futures Lab. So it's great to hear that you did that course. Here we go. Here's my first attempt sharing screen. And I'm hoping now that you will be able to see the full screen and not my speaker notes. Can I get someone to confirm that they're seeing the right screen?
Yep, we got you.
Ka pai, thank you very much. Paua Interface, I left university. I was the only Māori woman in a 4-year degree of, I think, around 7,000 students. However, I have a stubborn streak. And so being the only Māori woman, and there were 3 other Māori men in different years than me, wasn't a scary thing. To me, it was a challenge. It was the red flag to the bull. And if anyone told me I couldn't do something, I'd be right there and say, yes, I can, and off I'd go. And I had been told as a young woman that women don't do tech, don't do computers, as they used to say in the old days. And of course, that was just the door, was wide open at that point. And I ended up going straight down that track without any other reason except for my stubbornness, I think. So I finished my degree in 91. And so 92, I think, is the year that they gave me the degree. So it was born, Paua Interface was born then. It was born remote. We've never had an office. And of course, I've just realized when I look at those years, it's coming up 30 years now. So that's a little bit scary, I think. Incredible Skies was born 4 years ago. The original reason that the company was set up was to look at working with the Civil Aviation Authority to deliver medicines and supplies to remote Māori communities. We didn't quite get there. We almost got there, but we had pushback from the health sector, from doctors who were very much against anything remote. They would rather their patients drive a 3-hour round trip to go and walk into their clinics than allow for remote healthcare, let alone drone deliveries. And the pharmacists weren't too happy with us either. So there's quite a bit of pushback 4 years ago. Of course, COVID has changed everything. But someone in the community that we were going to pilot and reminded us last year that had we had a drone service delivering medicines and taking samples back and forth to hospitals or to the GP, life would look quite different. So a lot of it is about having an idea that maybe the timing isn't right, that kind of thing. The other thing that I'm involved in is just at the bottom there of the slide, you'll see MEDAB, MEDAB, which is the Māori Economic Development Advisory Board. As a result of COVID and as a result of the times we're in, they've now started a future of work stream, which will inform ministers and the government directly. So I'm part of a cohort of people talking about this very subject right now. So it's really timely and it's really critical. So I'm just going to move slides and make sure that people can see the slides as I move them. You should be able to see a big green circle. And that circle is telling the truth right now. I'm not going to mention any technologies throughout my whole presentation. And you'll see why soon. But I did have four things that I thought it would be good to think about for everybody. In New Zealand right now, the tech sector is the #2 contributor to our GDP, to our economy. It was tourism, but of course COVID changed that completely, and the tech sector is now #2 behind the primary sector. So this is where very much a dairy, farming, horticulture, forestry type country, for those of you who are not from here. Tech sector's coming right up behind that, and of course it makes a lot of sense because it is shielded from the environmental impact of the primary sector that Michelle talked about just before, and it's also shielded from, I guess, physical-based economies. The second thing I thought it would be good for you to think about is that we have a tech skills shortage. We've quantified it here in New Zealand, but we also know that that tech skills shortage applies everywhere in the world. And just a note on that, it's not the junior roles that we're short of. It's more the medium and senior roles. So finding people who have a bit of experience perhaps has become extremely difficult. But for the junior or early stage people who are moving into their career, remember that your competition isn't every tech, isn't other people that are in your circles physically here in New Zealand. It's the outsourcing companies from all around the world that can do it better and cheaper. So this is a comment on how we should be thinking about our work life in the tech sector. The third one, tech trends analysis. The key here is not to assume that tech is static. It changes constantly. And doing some due diligence around what the trends are right now, both in your own country and worldwide, helps people choose the pathway for themselves about where they would spend their effort in terms of growing skills, I guess, in the tech sector. And then the last one, passive or active. I guess I'm asking, particularly for people who are just beginning in their careers and people who are supporting them, do you always want someone to tell you what to do? Or do you envisage someday that you will be leading? And this is a choice. And it leads to us thinking about what is it that we need to learn to navigate our career pathway or our work life. So today, it's the year 2022. I want to introduce you to Kermit, the tech worker version 0.1. He's a new tech worker. He is with his boss and startup founder, Miss Piggy. She's helping him start his new career. And the rest of my presentation will be if Kermit came to me and said, Robyn, can you help me with some advice around my tech career pathway? The rest of my presentation is my response to Kermit. So it's going to come in 2 parts, 4 stages with 2 parts. I'm going to give you the 4 stages and just a comment about the technology skills trajectory that a new person entering the tech sector might take. And I'm also going to give you some tips from the front line. I think Colart introduced me earlier as having some war stories. So this is a little bit touching on the war stories out there very much from an industry perspective and from someone who employs and contracts tech workers. So I'm really interested, even though I'm talking to Kermit, who's an early stage tech worker, I know there are industry people, there are academic people here too, and you might have a different way of seeing this than I do. So I look forward to your comments in the chat or when we get to the panel discussion. So Kermit, years 0 to 3, I would say to him, get skilled or reskill and provide evidence. So evidence looks like qualifications or experience, even if it's unpaid, and proper referees. So proper referee doesn't mean your uncle. It could be your favourite senior lecturer. It could be the highest level manager at your supermarket job. It could be your coach. It could be any credible, trusted contact that you have. And on the tip side, this is where I'm going to be really honest with you about how employers see their tech workers when they apply or when they approach for jobs. Employers do care about, at this stage, years 0 to 3, they do care about your qualification and sometimes your grades, but they care more about your integrity and communication skills. So I would say to Kermit, learn this now. Verbal skills, written skills, emotional maturity. Ask the employers in your life, in your circles, what good communication looks like and practice it everywhere. So now Kermit's in year 2 to 10 of his new work trajectory. I'm avoiding saying the word career because I had some advice very early on when I started working, probably within 6 or 7 years. I was quite worried because I was self-employed, had a company. I thought, gee, I can't say I have a title. I haven't got a clear career path. Maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. And this man, who was one of my clients, a very senior IT professional, said to me, don't worry about a career, just build experiences. And I've always taken that advice through to every project, every opportunity that comes my way. So in year 2 to 10 for Kermit, I would say to him, get better skilled and provide evidence. So that could also mean more qualifications, but not necessarily. Definitely means experience. It definitely means collecting referees, meaning building good relationships with them, being worthy of them saying good things about you, and building a portfolio. So between years 2 and 10, there should be some projects and programs and things that a new skilled tech worker might be building up to be able to showcase their leadership. On the tips side, by now, the employers don't really care which university you went to, unless maybe it was Harvard or Oxford. But I have had approaches by people who have gone to that universities, and to be really honest, I don't care. By then, I care more about other things. So they still care that you have the qualifications, but not necessarily your grades, because by then, in years 2 and 10, you probably wouldn't get work if your grades were so low and you couldn't do the job. You wouldn't have much on your CV, right? So they care more about your experience and the quality of your referees. And then the third stage of 4, years 5 to 15 plus, I'd say to Kermit, get specialised and provide evidence. So a specialty might be, for example, cybersecurity, or it could be going down the track of where Michelle was talking. It could be some kind of technology specialty that looks at the impact of the environment in the tech sector. It could be anything, but whatever it is, have it clearly defined. And the tip here is that employers by now don't care about your qualification at all. If I get a CV from someone who hasn't got a degree, for example, I don't care. I'm now looking at their experience and their referees and their specialty portfolios. And then the last stage for Kermit, 15 years plus, I would say to him, become the expert, build a solid reputation, practice thought leadership, position yourself in the right circles with the right people, the kinds of people who challenge you, the kinds of people who inspire you, the kinds of people who you can have conversations with that really test your thinking. And the last one is being relevant. The tip here is that by now, employers only care about your reputation and your specialty area, and so does your industry. They're looking now at the caliber of your clients or your employers. They're no longer necessarily asking you all the detail in your CV. They're saying who hires you. because the better caliber of whoever hires you, the more they lean into the idea of he or she must be pretty good then. And it's just a weird truth about how employers see things. Go to the right conferences, go to the right meetings, do speaking engagements, and build your networks genuinely and authentically with people. Learn how to build networks that are mutually beneficial, not for exploiting people, but how you can help each other. Posts on LinkedIn, post only the high quality LinkedIn posts, write white papers. So at this stage, you are absolutely demonstrating your expertise, and you have an audience because people believe that you have the expertise that they want to know about. That's it. Those are the 4 stages for Kermit. And then my last slide is just to look at the year 2065. This is Kermit the Frog version 102.4. Some of you will know why I chose that number. Kermit has reached the pinnacle of his career. And so I'd like to leave it there just for a little bit of thinking for you. Again, welcome you to challenge my thinking too through the chat or the panel. All I would say to the early stage people in their careers is make sure you earn the respect of your peers as a person and in your work, and they will without hesitation vouch for you. But I also really want to acknowledge Michelle's presentation. I was so happy that she did hers first. I hadn't seen it before she did it, but I think she set the scene beautifully for how we should go forward. So kia ora, everybody.
The mute button. Oh, everyone can hear me. Thank you so much, Robyn. Wow, so stimulating. We've got Kermit the Frog really scrambling our brains at the moment, so thank you for that. And I hope that as an audience, you're starting to get really activated and ready for our panel, where we'll be inviting a lot more Q&A input. And just want to really thank all the people that have been dropping comments. We've got some chunky ones in there, some great advice, some great explanations from practices around the world. Alan, you're really sharing some really interesting and rich stuff. We've got some great questions coming through, ready for our panel. And so, yeah, thank you so much. Sweet. So we're on to our 3rd speaker for tonight. We'll just get those slides back up. I think they've dropped down now. Thanks, Masoud. Oh, this is amazing. So thank you so much. So next up, we've got the amazing Susan Bennett. So Susan is the head of school for computing, electrical, and applied technology at Unitec. I think she mentioned that it was her dream job, and I was like, wow, okay, well, I want to hear more. So Susan is passionate about education and has considerable knowledge and understanding of the challenges faced by students in tertiary study. She's interested in transformative leadership techniques that motivate and stimulate performance. Susan wishes to incorporate her recent international experience into her teaching and leadership practice. And she's an experienced and motivated learner, ready to explore and embrace new beginnings in new places. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and give a warm welcome to Susan Bennett. Awesome, the floor is yours.
Great, I'm just going to share my screen, and if you can just let me know if you are seeing my slides, that would be great. Oh. Oh, is someone doing dinner? If we could move, can everyone else hear that? The dinner? Yes. Perhaps maybe someone needs to mute for me. Thank you. So can we just confirm that you can in fact see my slides? Because when you might have done that, I couldn't see you. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Thank you. So I've just got nothing but kind of gratitude really for the speakers that have gone before me tonight. Just bringing that real world and that imagination and that inspiration to the table and to their talks. I live in an ivory tower. I work in an ivory tower in terms of education. So it's always awesome for me to be able to hear what is actually happening away from education. But just going on to my talk, first of all, I'll just let you know who we are, because I'm nothing without our school, without our team, without the people that contribute to the success of our students. We have a team of about 45 academic staff in our school. 20 of those teach in the computing area. Obviously, we also have electrical and applied technology academics as well. In computing, we specialise in networking and cybersecurity and software development and data management and analytics. And we teach across a range of levels in the framework. So we have a certificate for returning to learn, or for students who want to leave school and just do something. So, we start at level 4, and we actually still also are teaching a doctorate program at level 10. So the breadth of knowledge and expertise and experience in our teaching team is awesome, and our success rates are fantastic. I'm so lucky to work with the team that I work with, and that's why I think it is my dream job, because I work with this group of excited, interesting, passionate people who care about the same things that I care about. So it isn't like working, really. So who am I? And when I think about this, it was interesting. Robyn said she graduated in 1991. I graduated in 1995, also from the University of Waikato, and also with a computing qualification. And but I was already quite old, as in I was already a mother. I had my first child when I went to university, and I do know what Robyn was talking about with huge classes and trying to kind of fit as a student into that space. What I did realise was that up to that point, the aspirations that had guided me had never been my own. So my parents had aspirations for me, but they weren't really that big. I mean, my parents, I love them and I continue to love them, but their horizons were small and their expectations of their children fit those horizons. I left school at the end of my 5th form year, so I didn't do university entrance, I didn't do any of those kinds of qualifications, and I went into my first piece of work, and really all I wanted to do was earn some money so that I could travel overseas. So after graduating and moving into education, because I did move after a couple of years, I went into education, and I realized that now my aspirations were actually about other people. They were about my students, and they were about my own children and the horizons that I wanted them to see. So I have had a life of aspirations, and I continue to do that. When I do that for our students now. And I'm incredibly grateful that I can have that idea of hope. But when we're talking about skills for the future, this is my first skill for you, is have aspirations of your own. And just stop and think about that. Stop and think, do I actually have aspirations for myself, or am I living somebody else's? So that's just my first skill for this slide. When I was at university, what I discovered was it was new. Computing was new. It was computing, and it was providing opportunities, I thought, for huge advances in things that were going to make difficult lives easier. So I had this great hope for the future around things like assistive tech. And yes, we have pulled together some assistive tech over the past times. We've had braille keyboards, as I said, voice to text devices, so that allows people who are unable to write or type to still communicate in writing if they choose to. Speech recognition devices that allow those who can't talk to actually talk and communicate, things like motorized mobility devices. But these have just been tiny. Like the promise of tech to work in that space has really been overtaken because it's, capitalism, which requires, income, profit, revenue. There isn't a lot of profit in assistive tech. So it's kind of like been overtaking around that concept up to about 10 years ago, so that promise wasn't really taken up. Certainly we've had lots of improvements in the world of work because of tech. Certainly we've had lots of advances, but what has that really meant? It's meant that we can, as Michelle said, we can work longer, we can kind of output more, but are we actually achieving more, or are we achieving what it is that we wanted to achieve? And that's back to those aspirations again. We certainly have some great assistive tech now. There's certainly some good elements of tech for good right now. If we look at things like the way that we are connected and we can communicate, we are more connected than we have ever been before. We can communicate. Oh, this is a perfect example of it. I'm in my lounge in Morningside in Auckland. I don't actually go out a lot because, of COVID, but I'm able to communicate with all of you from wherever you might be. And we're doing this in a language way, which is a key form of communications for humans. So we have got those great facilities from tech. There's all of this information we can access like that. Google search, it's there. We have access to more information and at such speed that actually that's the scary bit, really, because what time do we have to analyze it? What time do we have to determine the trustworthiness of that information? It's just there. And when we look at things like teaching and learning aids, when we look at things like computerized mobility, we've really taken some major steps forward. Smart wheelchairs, they navigate according to GPS, so they know where they're going to go. They assess the route on the way, so they check for bumps and lumps in the pavement and make it a safe journey. It is amazing some of the things that we've been able to do. Mouth stick devices and other communication devices which allow people who are really severely disabled to still communicate. I put instant captioning in there because I actually think that's a really important tool, because it means that people who have issues with hearing, and that's not just deaf people, apparently captioning in our entertainment space is incredibly useful to an awful lot of people that aren't necessarily hard of hearing. And the avatar technology, which is kind of scary. And there's some really good, really lifelike. Someone was talking about healthcare. So Robyn was talking about the healthcare and the drones. Sorry, apologies, Robyn. And I've been looking at soul machines who have healthcare support via an avatar that's accessing the medical records and communicating in voice in an avatar environment with patients in their homes when they're asking them questions. It's actually a bit spooky. I'm not going to show you that slide because it was a bit spooky, but I'm just going to quickly show you Kara Tech, which is avatar technology for signing for deaf communities. So, I mean, all using AI, all using machine learning to develop an understanding of the signs and put them together in a way that I'm assuming you can see that. And if we just come down to, there's a picture of the avatars, look very human-like, don't they? And this one here is actually telling us messages to do with COVID level 4. So it's a collection of avatars. There's messages that are pre-created using these avatars and technology. Now, the tricky bit is, can I get back to my slides? Didn't practice that. Excellent, I did. But if we're thinking now about the future, and Michelle was talking about the work she was doing at Tech Futures Lab. I'm incredibly fortunate. I'm studying at the Mind Lab, and I'm studying a qualification in leadership for good. So I have really started to think about how the world can be and what we need to do and what we need to start doing for good into the future. I have children, they don't have any children, but I'm hoping they will have one day, but for my grandchildren. So one of the things that we know we need to be really working towards and starting to do something, and tech can help with this, is looking at wicked problems. And Michelle brought one up before in terms of climate change. They're insolvable problems, and I think we should stop looking for solutions because there isn't a solution. What there is a collection of activities that we could try. They're complex, they're interdependent. You can't give something a go because the consequences of it not working is significant. So we face an awful lot of wicked problems, and actually the human race has probably faced them for a very long time. But now what we have is tech that can hopefully help us as we go forward. So some examples, and they're intertwined, aren't they? So homelessness, crime and punishment, poverty and income disparity, all connected together. You can solve one, but you may well cause domino effects in others. They connect together. You can't treat homelessness as a single problem on its own. Racism, extremism, terrorism, all linked together and working. And these are the things that we're going to take forward to future generations. War, that element of racism and extremism, climate change, which is what Michelle was talking about earlier, which is also massive for everybody. And because the other piece that we need to add in there is pandemics and how we respond to those now, because the wicked problem is there isn't going to be just this pandemic, we will have more. So tech can help, but actually tech can be a wicked problem in itself. So tech for bad, we are more connected than ever, but that means we're all susceptible to misinformation, and we need to be able to, as I said, analyse and decide what is this piece of information, how trustworthy is it? And as we are socially disconnected, but socially connected via our internet and online devices, we become more susceptible to misinformation because we're seeking connection, and we're seeking connection in a space that isn't physical anymore. People are anonymous, the anonymity in the online presence. We actually don't know who we're communicating and connecting with. We're vulnerable, and through a pandemic and lock-ins and things like that, we're even more vulnerable, and misinformation, and we want to be part of something, we want to be connected and part of something. So it is a wicked problem, and it's all of these things connected together and dominoed together. So tech has contributed to some of the bad stuff as well. We also have those elements of equity of access. If you have access, then you have power. If you don't, then and if you need to have that access to be able to participate, where does that leave you? Where does it leave our homeless people when we tell them they just need to go and check the internet link for the local, for the closest shelter, and they don't have any way of doing that? And, what are we going to do about things like that? So there's kind of these pieces that we need to think about as well. Cybercrime. We have the ability now to steal huge amounts of money really easily, or to take from those vulnerable people that we were talking about before that want to be connected. They want connection. You're giving them that. You just need an airfare, or your cousin just needs some help with their car. And this is how those poor vulnerable people get pulled into sending money to Nigeria or wherever it is. So it's not always for good, but I think it can help. This is my last slide, and it's actually just the beginning of let's think about how it can help, because there are so many ways that tech could contribute to solving or contributing to solutions to some of our wicked problems. It does, I think artificial intelligence and machine learning can start to do some of that work. We do need to be really careful with our bias. We do need to be really careful about the data sets, but we know that and we can program that in. And as our data sets increase, as we expand, our machine learning can start to learn from the mistakes of the past. It's something we can start thinking about and developing now. We can model those solutions. We can test solutions and their impacts into those interconnectedness without actually doing it. We can do it in these simulated environments to get a feel or get an understanding of how the dominoes might tumble with particular collections of solutions. And I think we're getting to the point now of maturity in machine learning, the maturity of the modelling, the maturity of the data to be able to start really doing some interesting work to understand some solutions. And I also told a fib because there is another slide. And the other slide is education, tech education, because that's where I am. What can we do in tech education to start students thinking about solving some of these problems?
Susan, I think your audio's gone out.
Yes, I know. I just got a message to say that someone had muted me. That's because I'm talking for too long.
Is that the equivalent of the old stage hook?
Yeah. This is definitely my final slide. Our young people, and actually not so young people, are aware of the current social issues. They know what the future looks like and they know it's not great. We need to be encouraging them to, we can do this in our assessments. We can ask them to think about these social issues. We can ask them to think about programming to develop some solutions. We can ask them to think about design thinking to develop some of those solutions. And certainly we can rethink our program design. And instead of our programs being about skill sets, and I know skill sets and technical skills are really important, but instead of them being about that, they should be about solving things with skills. So that's kind of my story and that's my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. I realise that this is probably something I've been trying to talk about for a very long time, probably since 1995. And I'll hand you now back to Colart. Thank you.
Ngā mihi nui. Thank you so much, Susan. That was amazing. Really stimulating. In fact, actually, you've kind of lit quite a few fuses around that, and it really is a great compliment to the two speakers before. So thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. All of our speakers tonight. Thank you for getting our brains into motion. So we're going to take a comfort break now. It's 7:05, and we'll reconvene at, let's say, 12 minutes past 7. And I just want you to reflect on the three speakers that we've had.
Colart, you're muted.
Yeah, someone muted everybody. I suspect it was Masoud.
Oh, there we go. I'm back on again. I'm not sure if you heard that. So we're gonna take a break for 5 minutes now. So we'll reconvene at 7:12. So 12 minutes past 7 exactly. And in that time, while you're grabbing a quick drink or stretching your legs and catching some fresh air, can I ask you to please think about what you're taking from the talks that you've heard so far? So anything that you feel is really important, or something that stimulated your curiosity, something that you might follow up on. Just anything that you're taking from the 3 talks that we've heard so far, and then we'll get you to just share them in the chat when you get back in again. And we will welcome you back at 12 minutes past 7. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Colart. Thank you, all the speakers. So it wasn't me to mute you. Sorry.
Someone's active on the mute button.
Yeah.
No worries, Masoud.
Someone trying to learn more about Teams.
Ah, there we go. All right, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you had a chance to stretch your legs and get a drink of water or whatever. And yeah, we're getting back into it. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind, just take a moment and share with us on the chat. What's your biggest takeaway so far? You've heard from 3 amazing speakers. They've touched on an incredible breadth in our domain or in our subject tonight. And what's stuck for you? What's resonated and connected for you? So we'll monitor that in the chat. Thanks. Well, I hope I pronounce your name right. Krakawa. The importance of references and experience. Yeah, kia ora. So yeah, feel free to keep that streaming through. We're going to move to the next part of our evening, which is the panel discussion tonight. And yeah, if there's something that's really connected with you and you think, actually, this is pretty cool, pop it on your social media site. So you can literally copy and paste out of the chat and use the hashtag TechTalkNZ. And we'd love to give it some social media love. We'll kind of pump your LinkedIn profile or Facebook. We'll find you with that hashtag. And that could be a great way to get some street cred, some referenceability, just like Robyn suggested. Yeah, so take that opportunity. So yeah, we're at the stage, I think if we get our slides back up again, we're going to do our panel discussion now. So we're going to invite our 3 amazing speakers back to the mix. And we're going to open the floor for a bit of a free flow conversation. And I have a challenge for us tonight. All right, so our goal for the next 20 minutes or so is to make sure that every one of us walks away with some of the best advice and insights on the kind of skills that we could develop to develop for future employment. Okay, so that's our kind of goal. So what's the best advice or insights that we could come up with as a collective? And of course, it can't just be about our 3 panelists tonight. It's also going to come from our audience. So if you could help us out by thinking of some really cool, gnarly questions that you could have ready to go, pop them in the chat. And then as we go along, we'll pull them in and we'll make sure that adds into the conversation and helps us keep everyone sort of in the same page. And hopefully in 20 minutes or so, let's see between the collective what we can come up with as our kind of key wisdoms from tonight's talk. Cool. Oh, thanks, James Harrison. You shared some really good stuff tonight and really appreciate all the banter. In fact, actually, I just want to do a quick shout out and a call out. What I noticed in the chat was people sharing ideas. They were building on each other's ideas. They were answering questions. They were exchanging contact details. That is what Tech Talk is all about. So just really, ka pai, thank you so much for taking that opportunity. And please, we encourage more of it. The more connected our community is, I think, the better. So thank you for that. So cool. Turning our attention back to our awesome panelists tonight. If you're in the audience and you did have a question that you'd like to put to the floor, please can you use the hands up feature? So I'm just demonstrating that now on mine. So it shows up like that. It should be around your emoticons. So where you were doing the thumbs up and the hearts and that sort of thing, there's one symbol that has the hand up. And that will give us a bit of a sign that, oh, there's somebody that's waiting to kind of table or to table a question. And then what we'll do is we'll know then to kind of pull you off mute and give you the floor for a bit. So yeah, feel free to do that if you feel there's a compelling moment. Oh, is there anything else to mention, Masoud?
No, all good. So can I ask the first question myself?
Yes. See,
okay.
Masoud setting the example.
Yes. So first of all, I want to appreciate all the speakers and all the lovely audiences. Thank you for your amazing insights and knowledge sharing. I appreciate and I acknowledge the way you discover and talk about the industry point of view and education point of view. And since the theme is about the future skills or skills required for future employment, I want to know your opinion about the how internship program and the project-based learning programs can contribute to the employability of the students. And so what's your advice from the industry point of view? And if Susan can share the education point of view, how we need to change and make a better relationship between industry and education to actually enhance the students' employability.
Sorry, Masoud, I really couldn't hear that very well.
Could I summarize, Masoud?
Yeah, sure.
So what I heard you land over there was around the role of internships and project-based learning as a way to foster the skills that we will need for future employability. And just wondered if you had a comment from your perspective of what kind of shape that takes and what role it'll play.
That's right. Thank you.
So I'll go first if that's okay, because I've got my mic off. So I think what you're asking is we know in our education circles that students love internships, and we know that that provides them with this opportunity to see and do and practice their skills, what they've picked up in our courses in the environment of the workplace. We have less love for them from industry. And although, I mean, it's an interesting, that we will get interested partners, and they will say, yes, we'd love to have an intern, make sure you send us your best student. And so it's kind of, we need to do something a bit different about connecting with industry, and industry need to do something a bit different about their expectations of interns. So it's kind of like, it's a bit of both. But certainly that's the place where the students will learn that communication, those communication skills in the workplace. We can teach them theoretically what it's like, but until they participate in the workplace, then it just gives that, like for instance, I could teach someone how to swim, but I wouldn't pretend to do it without a swimming pool. You know, it's kind of, that's
nice.
the bit.
It's a great analogy.
I mean, you can teach someone to swim standing, lying on the floor, but can they really swim?
Michelle, Robyn, you want to get stuck in there?
I'd love to respond to Susan. Actually, Susan, I hear that what you've said so often, and it's true, but I'm now going to come from the swimming pool end as we watch the universities teach our students and our future generation, our future workforce, how to swim on the side, on the concrete, and wait for them to arrive inside the swimming pool. So there's a few things that have come up, particularly with the reform in education right now in our education sector through both the tertiary university sector, but also the polytechnic sector, around the difficulty from internships for industry. And it's not because they don't have a will. So I just want to put a few things on the table, I guess, about what might be happening from the industry side. One thing to consider here in New Zealand is that the majority of our companies are small. They're small to medium enterprises, which means they don't have a lot of capacity to help an intern, to guide them on that journey while they're with them. And quite often that means that by taking them on, they're taking their attention off something that their company perhaps needs to address. So there have been discussions more recently about what would it take for a small company to take on an intern or several interns. And my answer to that is give us the wraparound support too. So bring a person to help guide your student and help us work with that student, because it's pretty difficult to do it on our own with such low capacity. One of the things that have come up from the tertiary sector side, I had some great discussions last year with lecturers who are teaching IT courses. And in a very honest conversation I had with two of them, they said they recognised too that an issue with the tertiary system is that it's a very individual system by which a person can go and do some courses and get their exams. It's quite competitive. Yes, they have some group work, but they felt that they weren't teaching their students to be collaborative, to be team workers enough, and also not teaching them how to communicate. And that was from a response to me from a comment that I had made, that I've had probably 4 or 5 grads in a row over say, maybe the last 5 years, who didn't display good communication skills. So it was things like not turning up, not delivering, not telling me or someone else when they needed help or didn't understand something, and I think it came out of fear of failure. Whereas in the industry, we 100% want the student to tell us, I don't understand, can you help me? Or I don't know how to do this, because it is teamwork and it's collaborative. So their response to me was that we don't teach our students enough about that way of working because we're in such an individual environment. So that's another view from the swimming pool.
That's amazing. Thank you. I'd like to keep the conversation going, and this time perhaps start with Michelle. What's a skill that you think will stand the test of time? What's one of the things that we know that's in play right now that we think will never go out of fashion?
I would have to say, and it may seem a really strange answer, but it's listening. And when I talk about listening, what I mean is deep listening. Listening when we're present, when we feel that we're psychologically safe. Listening for subtext and meaning, as well as fact and data. And it's a skill that is a life skill. And I think we have to start early and we have to work in parallel. So I love always talking about and I'd so support Susan and Robyn's commentary there. And I suppose building on it, I'd say linkages are everything, and learning happens when we listen. But I don't know that we have much educational focus around deep listening. We tend to do listening or interpret listening in the context of a counselling situation or active listening, which can sometimes feel a little bit unheard when somebody's practicing active listening on you. But I'd say that, and I just wanted to say two things about the internship, which is industry works well when there's frameworks and structures, and sometimes there's blockages in the structures because the entry point might be through an HR function. And in fact, there's many individuals within organisations that are super keen to do pro bono mentoring and support, but they actually need some sort of line of sight to know what students are out there, because I can see such a generational win-win with people of my age mentoring from a comms industry work practice point of view, but needing really, instead of just relying on our kids, needing really good support from the latest technology learning. And I think if we had a method of not necessarily bypassing, but building on and adding to, so we're not just channeling this connection point through human resources areas. I just think the world of the sharing economy and reciprocity is huge. If we can market and communicate it well and use technology to create those links, I think it's unstoppable, and I think it'll be great for our young people and great for the older generations to share. But I'd have to say my key skill, and one that I'm trying to learn and focus on myself, is listening.
Kia ora. We've got a couple of questions that have come through, so people have got their hands up, and I'll give the floor to our amazing Ben, who's been with us from the beginning of Tech Talk. So pleased to see you tonight, buddy. Why don't you take the floor with your question?
Awesome. Yeah, cool. Is my microphone coming through all right? Perfect. All good. Okay, sweet. So this one's primarily sort of for Robyn, because it was her slide that made me think of the question. But if anyone else wants to jump in, then that's all right. So Robyn, in your work and trajectory slide, you talked about things like qualifications and references in the earlier stage of your career, and then moving towards experience in the sort of mid stage, and then reputation in the later stage, just to oversimplify it. So it seems to me, and I think hopefully I'm not alone in thinking this, but a lot more people, as collaboration is becoming way more accessible and way more feasible, a lot of people are moving towards the freelancing space. And so I was wondering, how do you see that big movement pulling that reputation factor from the really late stage of your career nearer to the mid stage or even the earlier stage? And just like on a broader level, how do you see that freelancing culture just impacting tech or the ways we work, especially in tech?
I probably need to say now that I've been a freelancer ever since I left university.
So yeah, of course.
That's pretty much what I am. And I've always used freelancers. I've only just recently started down the track of employing. And there are a couple of reasons for that, but it's very, very different to me. Freelancing, I don't think it is any different in terms of the trajectory. I think you still have to go through that same trajectory, no matter what. The thing about freelancing is that you really are a hunter and gatherer, and no one's going to just drop money into your bank account every 2 weeks. No one's going to give you a structured job description. And from my point of view, that is the most exciting way to work. I can't see myself ever having a job, and I can see Michelle nodding because she mentioned doing that a little later after having a job. I think the advantage of having a job, though, is you have that huge structure and support system sitting behind your work, and you have in most cases, I think you have a clear pathway. So when I work with people who have had their jobs for 30, 40 years, they're very mature in their areas. They tend to work in silos, though, so they can definitely work within the realms of whatever that pathway has been, but they don't tend to veer out. And this is mostly people who work in bigger companies or organizations, whereas freelancers will skip around happily over a whole lot of bunches, but they will still specialize. So I don't know if that quite answered your question. I think both are valid. That trajectory is valid in both cases.
Yeah, that's a really good job. If I can just take a few more minutes to expand that question, do you see freelancing taking over that position as the dominant sort of mode of work as opposed to working for an employer?
I think that if companies don't get up to play really quickly, they're going to lose some good talent. So even hybrid working. I know many people who are told you can have 1 day a week at home or 2 days a week at home, when maybe it should be stay home all week, but let's come together once a fortnight as a group and socialize with each other and have a bit of fun together and build the team relationship. So I'm seeing mostly that many companies are still slow to allow people to work from wherever they want to be in their own times. In that case, I think we are seeing a bit of a flight from people who are moving out of jobs into freelancing environments or very open employment, companies that allow very open remote working situations.
Can I just build on what Robyn's saying? Totally agree. And I think that there's huge untapped talent pools that are out there that not only the frame up of roles and jobs and times and locations of working, but hugely important, the actual culture and level of diversity within teams and organisations kind of excludes people just sort of by design versus, for example, neurodiverse people who may not actually pass muster in terms of traditional kind of recruitment process and interviewing processes, which is hugely important within the tech sort of industry. So I think there's a whole bunch of work that needs to be done around, and I'm very optimistic in the sense of the younger generations coming through that don't have the same sort of mindsets as maybe people of my age, which are so culturally bound up in the ways of working as if it's set in stone. And I often say with things like, say, education, 200 years ago, we were educating, our kids at home if they were lucky enough, to have, time and money to do that. But schooling and the way we do education, we actually just made that up. The same with work, we just sort of made it up. So in fact, there's a freedom to say we can actually make something different up, and in fact ideate and co-create. And so I feel we're at such an exciting time for that, but it's a whole
sort of democratizing, isn't it?
It's a whole sort of landscape of stuff that needs to change around work, its structure, the way we think of jobs and roles, but we need to make sure we're not going down a path. And the gig economy worries me in the sense of that if we use that very extractive method, which is what's the lowest pay that I can give to get this piece of work done with no reference to human experience or benefits or, family life or, the life of the planet, then, that's
we end up with a whole bunch of horrible side effects.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Folks, we've got Alan, you've had your hand up and very patiently for a long time, and I'm just really aware that that you've had that. I'm going to give you the floor in a second. I think that, believe it or not, we're actually approaching time. So it almost feels like we're just getting started with this panel discussion. So thank you so much.
Apologies for the long question.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So we're going to give the floor to Alan. I think that'll be the last question for the panel tonight. And then I think we want a wrap-up round. And so for the panelists, prepare for this question after Alan's. And what's your one key tip or takeaway that you would like, a piece of advice that you would like our audience to take away? What's your top tip, I think, for preparing themselves in terms of skills for future employability? So think about your answer for that, and then we'll use that as our kind of wrap-up round. Alan, would you like to take yourself off mute, and we're going to give you the panel. Over to you, buddy, and thank you for your patience.
Oh, no, my pleasure. Awesome. Thanks to all the presenters and the participants. It's part question, part statement. I'm a total believer of internships. The statement part of it is very hard to put them in place. I don't know where the fault lies. I don't know if it's on the academic fault, on the schools, universities, or on the business fault. I heard some of the points. Oh, it's hard because of HR. It's hard because of people. I am the director of the company. I am the CEO of the company, and I lead a set of our processes. With all that in hand, I cannot freaking get interns. And I cannot get an intern, even though I define research questions for interns. Even though I want to put it in place, it seems that it's difficult. And as I said, we were fortunate enough to get a number of interns from different universities, and 2 of our star developers are actually interns from universities. So my number one is it a problem on the business side? Is it business leaders that don't know how to communicate and how to get it in place? If that is the case, it seems to permeate everything from the most junior person in the company all the way to the most senior person in the company. So when you have a willing buyer, willing participant, and you still cannot put it in place, why is that possible? So in here, I want to put it both on the business, the fault, because first I'm going to point the finger on the business side, but equally on the academic side, because let's get over whose fault it is and see, can we develop a model that's going to make it easy for everybody? Yeah, and that's the first part of it. The second part of it is, I love the fact that we have discussions about democratizing the workforce and allowing the ability to work anytime, anywhere, and so on. Let's be mindful of the fact that there are quite a number of industries and sectors and businesses that, as much as they would love to, it's not that easy. For example, everybody that works with us has to go through background checks, AML checks, financial checks, absolutely everything like that. If I was to have a person that is able to see information from different organizations, would put us at risk and our clients at significant risk. So there are a number of those industries. While we have flexibility, we allow people to work here, and Robyn, I think you made that comment right from the beginning, especially in New Zealand, we are facing such a workforce. It's not even about which skill level, it's total workforce shortage, where I can have an employee that is happy working here.
So Alan, I'm going to stop you there, buddy. I'm still waiting for a question. And it sounds like we should get your name and details so that you can be one of our future speakers, buddy.
The question goes to that.
So land your plane, buddy. Give us a question.
The question is, what will the academics do to make internships possible?
Beautiful.
That's the question.
I've got a response, Aline. I would say get more people in the room. It feels as if there's not enough diverse voices and enough people at the table. We need, much more diverse group of people co-creating a response. It's absolutely doable. I'm up for it. I know there's lots of other people up for it. It just needs to be communicated well, marketed well. We need to sell the benefits effectively, but don't just leave it to the HR departments of industry and a small number of overworked academics, and get the interns involved as well. They're creative, they're full of energy, optimistic. It's a win-win opportunity. I just reckon it's absolutely doable. We just need, as you said, a new mindset around it and some new models, and get more voices around the table, and we'll get it sorted fast.
I'll kind of add to that, I think, in terms of we're in the middle of a educational transformation in the polytech sector, not in the university sector, but in the polytech sector. And I can see that's one of the reasons why. Because was it Michelle? Sorry, Michelle, you said we just started doing this in terms of education. We just made it up. So what we're now doing in New Zealand is we're saying, well, what is the best way to do this? Let's have a ideation, is what the word you used as well, is the way that we've done it up till now, meeting the needs of New Zealand students? And the answer is no. We have collections of New Zealand students who have been completely disadvantaged by the structure of our education systems, and they continue to be disadvantaged because the structure continues to be the same. So this transformation, which involves lots of work-based learning, which is those opportunities for formalised, designed, co-created learning environments that involve industry, that involve students doing that participatory learning, that is coming. I know it's not going to be a quick coming though, because there's a lot of stuff to undo, and then there's a lot of stuff to put into place to test, and it's one of those wicked problems. So I can see lots of hope in the future for that kind of thing, but I expect it will take a decade.
Robyn, did you want to add? I think you're on mute.
Only in defence of both sides. I don't think it's about fault. I think it's about figuring out what the ground truths are that are facing both those industry and academia and the students, and find solutions. And I just put a note there that SME employers are time poor and operate in a fragile economic model.
They live and die by results.
They really do, and the cash flow isn't necessarily big. So, but both sides, both sides to find a solution. I like your idea, Michelle, to bring people into the room together and find those solutions.
Sorry to just interject for a second. Again, I'm giving ourselves as an example. We have the cash, we have the projects, we have the willingness. I'm willing to put the people. I don't seem to be able to make it happen.
Well, just talk to Masoud, because he works for me, and his role is exactly that. To make those connections for us and provide you with interns.
You didn't tell us that Masoud was working for you, Susan.
I'm just checking my email.
We have to say nice things about him now. Well, folks, and just to kind of tack on to the end of that, it's one of the reasons why I think Masoud and I and the organizers are so passionate about TechTALK, because we were kind of born out of the sort of need that we saw education and industry just seem to be there's quite a big separation between them. And, you know, somebody mentioned the ivory tower quip kind of as a side comment, but it really does feel sometimes a bit true that sometimes what happens inside of our education institutions are quite distant and decoupled from industry. And so that was kind of one of the needs that we saw TechTALK meeting, is to create a play space where we just get to interact more and have these kinds of conversations for the Allens in the community to raise it and kind of go, hey, you know, I've got money, I've got projects. You know, I would love to put something back and actually cultivate the talent pool. How do I make that happen? And, you know, it's not immediately obvious. So this is exactly the kind of forum that we were hoping you would use it for. So thank you for that. We're kind of way over time. Sorry, Masoud, did you want to say something there?
Yes, please. I left my emails at the chat.
Yes.
So if you want to discuss about the TechTALK future events, please, this is the TechTALK email. And if you are looking for interns, so please contact me at the Unitec email. We have armies of the talented students.
And would you please, can I ask that we share any, I guess, insights or learnings systemically? So if you discover that actually what made the internship process here easier was X, Y, Z, then share that out with the community. We should open source these sort of lessons, right? And kind of break them out there. Folks, we are a little bit behind our schedule, and I really want to make sure that we wrap up strong. So I'm going to offer the floor to our speakers. What is your one top tip that you'd offer back to our audience as a key takeaway for developing their skills, getting themselves sort of future fit? Let's go with that, and then we'll do the big wrap up routine. So what's your top tip?
I'll go. The other two microphones are still off. So my top tip is to be, and it's not so much a skill, maybe it isn't, be curious. That's my top tip.
You go, Michelle.
Oh, thank you. I was just going to say, be human first. You know, as you're developing your tech skills and tech models and tech mindset, in parallel and importantly, in terms of future employment and everything else, develop all those human, very precious human skills and qualities we have around relationship, connection, collaboration, listening.
Thank you.
Mine is probably close to Michelle's. Soft skills, 100%. You can buy online any tech skill you want in the world. You can pay for it cheaply. You can get better skills. But what you can't buy are those soft skills: relationship building, good communication, trust, courage, those kinds of things.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can we get a massive round of applause for our speakers tonight? That's been an amazing panel discussion, and a huge round of applause to all the contributors as well from the audience, people that added questions and comments, all the stuff that's happened. So thank you so much. Wow, that kind of brings the panel discussion up to a close. And thank you. We're going to move into a little bit of a wrap-up round now. If you liked tonight, it's a slightly different format than we're used to. So the organizers are very keen to get any feedback. What did you like about tonight? What do you think we could change? I think we've got a closing survey, is that right? Evaluation form. So we'll just get that up right now. So if you could take a moment and just do us the honor of giving us your feedback, we really, really appreciate it. Things that will just help us sharpen things up and make sure we get the formula right. So thank you. And while you're doing that, just going to do a massive shout out to all our TechTALK partners for making tonight possible. Usually we're in person at a live event, and that means it's hosted by one of the amazing educational institutions that we have around Tamaki Makaurau. The next one's going to be at the University of Auckland. They'll be hosting us. So yeah, just a massive shout out to all the partners, past and present, and hopefully future, that make this event possible. The other shout out I'd like to give is to Masoud and the tireless heroes behind the scenes that make TechTALK possible. We can see a few of them on the line tonight: Danielle, Ben, long-time supporters, and just we've got such a big heart for the role that you play in helping to bring this community together. Share some love. We've got lots of socials there. As you can see, we're present on all the socials, on the Instagrams and the Facebooks and the Tweeters. So yeah, get connected and help us build the conversation mass around this. Yeah, is there anyone else I forgot to thank? Army of volunteers, speakers. Thank you so much to our speakers. I mean, we did it already, but let's give them a massive round of applause. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and connecting us and kicking us off for 2022. That's amazing. And I think we're kind of in our last round now. So again, just a plug for feedback. Use that survey form, the evaluation, really helpful. Yeah, so our next event is going to be the 19th of May as part of Tech Week, which is a really exciting event. Or it's actually a whole, they call it Tech Week, but it's actually spanning, I think it's become a month now. Should be called Tech Month, but that had branding issues. So yeah, so this is kind of a thing that happens in Aotearoa. Around Aotearoa, we have events and things happening all over the place that are all built in around the conversation around tech. So we'll be hosting an amazing event. It gets even bigger every year. So TechTALK was very proud to be hosting an event at the University of Auckland, 19th of May. So put a placeholder in your calendar. I think our special topic for that one is AI and automation, future of work for growth, resilience, and sustainability. Are we still on the lookout for speakers for that event, Masoud, or we got that sort of locked down?
So yeah, we already confirmed all the speakers and the panelists. Yes. So at that event, we will have 3 speakers, but we will have 5 panel members.
Exciting! Yes. So thanks for giving me the panel moderation practice, panelists. Appreciate it. I'm going to have to deal with 5 next time, so we'll see how that goes. Cool. And I think our last thing was, do we have the ability to take a kind of a group photo? If we put something on gallery view, and I could ask one of the organizing team to just get a lovely picture of all of us. So this is a moment where we'd love for you to come onto camera and give us a wave, and when somebody tells us that they're ready, say cheese or fromage, we'll get a nice big group photo of us tonight, and I think that'll bring us to a close. Yay, look at all these awesome people. Hey Sarah, hey Tamsin. Awesome. Check out all these cool people. Farat, how you doing, my friend? Dominic, good to see you, buddy. That's a nice big smile. Takira, thank you so much for all your comments tonight. It's been really lovely seeing the engagement. Hi, Kate. Wow, this is awesome. Okay, cool. So over to you, organizing team.
I want to request everyone put your virtual hands together for Colart. So he did an amazing job again. So thank you, Colart. And as Colart mentioned, we really love to meet you all in person, 19th of May at University of Auckland. Thank you, Colart.
Awesome. Thank you, Masoud. And thank you, everyone. Has the group photo been taken? Let's make sure we get that photo first. You just tell us to be ready. You ready? I think you're still on mute, Masoud.
I've taken a few, so I guess.
Oh, you've taken a few. Oh, exciting. Okay. So hopefully you catch us in a good pose, like.
Oh, good now, yeah.
He was smiling, so I knew when I should smile as well.
Oh, very good. Yes, outstanding. Hey, look, aroha mai, thank you very much, kakite. Pomarie, I say, good evening. Have yourselves a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for joining us. Bye for now until the next exciting episode.
Thank you, everyone.
Wow, what a talk.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, I know.
How are you doing?
Hello.
Yeah, really well.
Hello. How are you, Kate?
I'm good.
You're busy with the cybersecurity.
I know. That is so cool. I love it. I'm so enjoying learning everything now. So, yeah. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, good. So, at May we can reunion and meet in person at University of Auckland. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
So to meet face-to-face people.
I know, right? I can't wait. Yeah. It's so annoying, the whole COVID thing. I just like, oh my God, I don't even know what the outside world looks like now.
That's right. Okay, it was a very nice event. I'm happy. So very nice talks.
Yeah, it's cool how people actually really talk to each other in this one. I think that definitely took a while for the online events to get that level of I don't know, like communication, I guess, compared to the physical ones.
That's right. So what do you reckon about the panel? So it was the first time we had the panel.
Yeah, I think it was really good. It was a way of like combining sort of user or people questions like from the guests versus if any one of the speakers has like a particularly like and relevant thing to say about that, they can also kind of jump in. So
you are right. You are right. So will you join us for badminton this?
Yeah, I will. What was it? Saturday at Unitec North Shore campus?
AUT.
AUT, sorry, North Shore campus.
So text me. So just remind me. I will give you the correct address.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so keen to go. It's been ages since I've been badminton with you guys.
How are you, Benjamin?
Yeah, I'm fine. Nice meeting you. I think this program has really helped us to, rebuild our capacity to look at things in a different form. This of pandemic. I wish to be part of this program and then build relationship, build capacity. I don't know how I could get in touch with the key speakers and stuff like that.
Yeah, great to know that, and thank you for joining us. And are you based in Auckland?
Hello.
Hello, could you hear me?
The line is kind of breaking in a way.
Oh, yeah. So,
Okay.
Are you based in Auckland?
No.
Oh, okay. So the reason I'm asked because it's because of the next event. So it's a face-to-face event, and so I was so keen to meet you there. But still, we have online. So it's a hybrid mode. So you can join online on May as well.
Okay. Please, can I have your email? Then we can develop some relationship from there.
Sure, definitely, 100%. I'm looking forward to it. Please send me an email.
I just want to get to the chat. Okay. Can I locate the chat and then get to my email as well?
Yes, sure, please.
What is the chat?
So if at the top, next to the people, is the chat section.
Okay, let me just see.
So you click on the reactions. Next to the reaction is a chat.
Okay. You just send me hi on the chat, then I can use it to work. Or send me your email on the chat, then I also send my email as well.
Okay, great. I got it. Okay, great. Yeah, please send me an email, and then we can arrange a time and we can have a chat soon and to discuss any opportunities.
Okay.
Very nice to meet you, and have a lovely night.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
connecting. It is privilege Okay. See.